Hello and welcome to today's SCDN Policy Connection, Solar Strategies for Local Governments. My name is John Ukenya, and I'm the Senior Director of Policy and Strategic Initiatives at Sustainable Pittsburgh. As a reminder, this webinar will be recorded and these materials will be shared after today's program. Please submit any questions via the Q&A box and we'll answer them at the end. Feel free to enter your name and organization into the chat so that everyone knows who's in attendance. As always, we strive to create a welcoming environment for all participants and encourage everyone to engage with respect and courtesy. Constructive discussions and diverse perspectives are valued, and we ask that all interactions remain professional and considerate. By participating in this webinar, you are helping to foster a positive experience where everyone can learn and contribute meaningfully. Next slide, please. At Sustainable Pittsburgh, our mission is to empower decision-making that builds a fundamentally equitable, resilient, healthy, and prosperous region. We are doing that through connecting our stakeholders in networks we host, such as the Sustainable Communities Development Network, SCDN, to share knowledge of sustainability through resources and experiences to help make a region where all people may succeed. Sustainable Pittsburgh is committed to building the knowledge, perspective, and ability needed to create a better region, better tomorrow for our region. We're optimistic, having worked with nearly 1,000 businesses, communities, and organizations to take action using our customized frameworks to track progress and simultaneously advance social equity, environmental stewardship, and prosperity. The strategic networks we host leverage the collective expertise and diverse perspectives within our region to ensure our communities can meet our challenges today and thrive into the future. That is why we invited you all today to attend as part of our Sustainable Community Development Network, to learn together so we can act together. And together is how we co-create a fundamentally equitable, resilient, healthy, and prosperous region. We would like to thank our silver sponsor, Pitt, Ohio, for their support of Sustainable Pittsburgh to make programs like this possible. And we'd also like to extend our gratitude to our bronze sponsors for their ongoing support. For our agenda today, we're going to start with a quick overview of Sustainable Pittsburgh's recognition programs. These frameworks for municipalities, businesses, and other organizations to track and measure sustainability progress. After that, we'll get an introduction on today's topic. First, we'll hear from Leo Kowalski, Director of Transformation at PA Solar Center, who will provide an overview on municipal level solar and high-level items you need to know. Second, we'll hear from Eric Robb, Director of Infrastructure and Resilience at Connect, the Congress of Neighboring Communities, who will speak to the why behind pursuing solar and the related benefits of doing so. Third, we'll hear from Bethany Ayers-Fisher, Sustainability Manager for the City of Reading's Department of Public Works, who will provide a real perspective of municipal solar in action. Lastly, we'll come back around for a Q&A session with all of our speakers. As a reminder, please use the Q&A box for any questions you may have. I will now pass it over to my colleague, Sawyer Seilinger, who will talk us through Sustainable Pennsylvania.
All right, to kick things off, I'll be starting to share a bit about Sustainable Pittsburgh's recognition programs. We have 4 programs, 3 for businesses in the southwestern Pennsylvania 10-county region. Sustainable Pittsburgh Shops, which is tailored for small retail businesses. Sustainable Pittsburgh Restaurant, suited for food businesses. Sustainable Pittsburgh Workplace, a catch-all for those that are not restaurants or shops. In addition to those 3 programs, we have Sustainable Pennsylvania, a program created for municipalities across the state. More generally, each of these programs offer a step-by-step process to track measurable sustainability progress, as well as a framework that organizations can use to drive measurable impact while providing recognition for their sustainability achievements. Programs are based on best practices and have been peer-reviewed by knowledge experts. Programs are fluid and changing based on changes in needs, opportunity, landscape, and opportunity for impacts. Recognition comes in the form of bronze, silver, gold, platinum level of designation or certification, and that is based on overall sustainability performance and determined by completing an online assessment through the unique portal offered by Sustainable Pittsburgh. To date, Participation includes over 400 businesses, organizations, and municipalities, with dozens more working through the process. As many of you here are representative of the municipal audience, I'll share a bit more about Sustainable Pennsylvania Certification Program. Managed by Sustainable Pittsburgh in partnership with the Pennsylvania Municipal League, the program provides strategies, resources, and recognition to municipalities for improving quality of life and expanding opportunities for everyone. It covers a comprehensive set of sustainability topics and provides step-by-step guidance for how your community can advance its performance in areas such as waste and materials management, economic development and revitalization, parks and land conservation, as well as several other topics that can help build a more vibrant and resilient community. Spanning across the state, we have 139 municipalities that have earned their Sustainable Pennsylvania certification, and we're touching over 4 million Pennsylvanian residents. The Sustainable Pennsylvania program offers several benefits. First and foremost, it can help you baseline your municipality's current sustainability performance, as well as serve as an action plan for your efforts. To help you advance your progress, the program also offers resources, tools, and best practices developed by over 60 advisors. Getting certified helps your community be recognized as a leader in sustainability. Once certified, you'll receive a promotional kit, which includes a badge for your website, job postings, and other uses, and a press release template. We'll also share your achievement through Sustainable Pittsburgh's communications channels. The Sustainable Pennsylvania website also provides your municipality with a municipal profile for you to use to help inform your residents about what actions you've taken as a municipality to further your sustainability journey. Lastly, Sustainable Pennsylvania certification also is recognized on Pennsylvania Department of Community Economic Development, or DCED's, municipal funding applications, which can help a funding application stand out through clear demonstration of sustainable commitments and increases your chance for approval. There are just 4 steps to getting certified. First, you need to create an account. If you're a municipality, right now is a great time to pull out your phone, use your camera to capture the QR code and get signed up today. You will create an account by filling out the page and click sign up. Once you have an account, the next step is to answer all the questions in the program. The program takes form as an online assessment, and the questions are customized for municipalities. You can work with a team of colleagues to complete this, which is a great way to help organize a sustainability team at your municipality, which is actually one of the actions. Third, after you complete your assessment, submit it, and our staff will take time to to review and give you feedback on your responses, and you'll have a chance to address that review and feedback to adjust your answers, to resubmit, and pursue certification. Last, you'll earn bronze, silver, gold, or platinum certification based on 2 criteria: the total percentage of possible points you earn, whether you've completed the required actions for each level of certification. There is no deadline to participate, and certifications expire every 3 years. And now I'll pass it back to my colleague, John.
Thank you, Sawyer. We're excited to have you all join us for today's discussion, Solar Strategies for Local Governments. Why are we focusing on this now? At Sustainable Pittsburgh, we understand that rising energy costs and increasing strain on the grid have placed new pressures on municipalities across Pennsylvania. At the same time, federal policy shifts are creating uncertainty, with fewer national incentives to support clean energy development. Yet, here in Pennsylvania, local governments still have powerful tools at their disposal. State government programs and technical support from community organizations create real opportunities for communities to take charge of their energy future. By investing in solar, whether through rooftop systems on municipal buildings or community shared projects that open access to renters and low-income households, Local leaders can reduce operating costs, strengthen resilience, and expand clean energy equity. This moment is a critical one. The choices municipalities make today will shape budgets, public health, and community well-being for decades to come. Municipal side solar adoption is a demonstration of forward-thinking governance and a commitment to a more sustainable, more equitable future for all Pennsylvanians. With that, let's begin our conversation. It is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Leo. Leo Kowalski is the Director of Transformation for the Pennsylvania Solar Center, where he leads the GET Solar Get Solar program, helping businesses, nonprofits, and public entities adopt solar energy. With nearly 2 decades in renewable energy industries, he brings experience from hands-on fuel processing to business development for a Fortune 200 energy company. Kowalski holds a bachelor's degree in history from Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Welcome, Leo.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate the introduction, and I'm grateful to be a part of this experience and talk to folks a little bit about, our perspective as a technical support organization on the state of solar, specifically for municipalities. A little trick here is that Eric and I are kind of co-presenting. We've worked together, Connect in the Pennsylvania Solar Center to develop a hopefully soon to announce positive milestone solar development across several municipalities with significant number of project sites. But we're really trying to demonstrate the how and why of how this is going to work. I really want to emphasize solar from landscape of technical support and what the resources are that are available. Very high level view of that, and then I'm sure Eric and Bethany can give you a little bit more of the experiential piece for what it's like for a municipal organization. A little bit more about us, really brief. Pennsylvania Solar Center is a 501c3 nonprofit. We're a statewide resource. We do a variety of things solar related. So we work in policy, education. We have a website that posts some resources that might be salient to folks on this call, including landowner's guide for organizations or people who are approached by solar developers who are seeking to lease their land to put in utility scale, or even maybe just like what we call merchant generation, a commercial scale solar array, to send energy back to the grid. That guidebook helps folks understand the best practices for their economic and legal protection, about just some industry standard stuff that they should look for when a developer speaks to them. Permitting guides on that website. We have solar developer maps. We host a variety of webinars and try to be a general platform for solar resources for any number of solar stakeholders. But the thing that I really want to talk about today is our Get Solar initiative. My team works on direct support to organizations seeking solar, and we do a lot of municipal solar these days. As John pointed out, the rising cost of electricity is a pressure point, and that's only going to increase. There's nothing in the forecast that makes that seem like that's going to get better. And so we really want to emphasize protecting our communities and insulating municipal governments in the long term using solar. A little bit about what I'm just going to cover today. Again, super high level, and we could spend hours going into the technical aspects of this and the financial, certainly. But I just want to give a high level view of what solar could be for you and for your community in a way that hopefully leaves you feeling pretty good about the opportunity. We're going to talk a little bit about finance, talk a little bit about the timeline. I'm sure everybody's aware that changes to the federal government have accelerated some of the timelines that need to be met to secure the solar tax credit, the ITC, the direct pay option for municipal government. So I'll discuss that a little bit, and a little bit about the collaborations and the partnerships that make going solar a lot easier for you. First thing, I think municipal solar looks good. We're really looking at here like the three major types of installations that you're really going to be exploring. There's some stuff on the margins, but really you're going to be looking at rooftops. You're going to be looking at ground-mounted solar on property you own, or you might be interested in investing in parking canopies if parking lots specifically if you're looking to do upgrades to a parking lot that you own or operate. These are the best practices in solar. And frankly, I think aesthetically, I don't know. Maybe I've just been in the industry too long, but when I see an empty roof without solar, I'm reviled by it. We call that lazy rooftop in the industry. Like you have a roof, it doesn't do anything for you besides keep the water off, which is obviously great. But man, you could put some solar up there and generate money. That feels good. Parking canopies, nobody likes being in a parking lot in the summer. Uh, put some solar up, protect your cars, capture some water. Um, ground mounted solar. So if you want to switch to the next slide, um, has a lot of applications that can be productive both from an energy standpoint, but also have positive environmental impacts. Maybe your municipality doesn't own a lot of land, but there's certainly municipalities and authorities across the Commonwealth that are using scaled solar in a field, and they have some kind of agrivoltaic component to it. Agrivoltaic is just agriculture plus solar. Um, Sometimes that's like we see here, a beautiful little sheep running around, chewing the vegetation so that you're not spending time and money maintaining that. And some agricultural entity is creating revenue from that space. Also, proves soil quality, soil health quality. There's a lot of research out now that suggests taking land, putting it into basically not even a fallow state, but a regenerative state because you have all of this bioactivity taking place. It's a positive for that land. So, if we're talking about moving farmland into solar, it's temporary and can actually be an asset. But also, it's just pollinator gardens. And the best practice in the industry now is you build a field of solar, put some local native pollinators in there, work with entities that are familiar with the region. Earth Seeds in Meadville, for example, has really great seed mixes for this. Um, Looks good. It's doing a good thing for the environment and it's saving you money. A little bit about that stability and revenue, and again, I'm here for the how. I'm not going to get into sort of maybe what the pressure points are for a municipal government, but I think everybody understands that electricity rates are going up, and that the third-party supply agreement structure is becoming a little bit shakier. I mean, that's most of what municipal governments do to stabilize prices. These sort of relatively short-term, 2 to 5 years probably agreements with a third-party supplier to lower your rates. But increasingly, those contracts, I caution folks to be a lot more proactive about reading through those and seeing what is and is not covered. There are some pass-throughs. There are some sort of hidden costs in those contracts, especially now as the PJM, the Pennsylvania, Jersey, Maryland grid operator, of which we belong, has experienced dramatic increases in transmission costs. Some of that stuff's going to be passed through on your supply contract. So the beauty of solar is creating a predictable long-term energy cost, right? So even if you're using a power purchase agreement, which I'll talk about, you're paying for it with cash or bonding it, financing it, you have a predictable structure. If you have a long-term loan, you know what you're going to pay every year. If you have solar just active, you know what the cost of electricity is because the solar is generating that. And a power purchase agreement is going to have a spelled out rate over the term, 25, 30 years probably. On top of that, I mean, municipalities have access to some unique financing opportunities in Pennsylvania. Bonding is obviously consideration, and sometimes folks don't want to engage with that. And some organizations have a lot of experience with that. But there's also nonprofit financing institutions that are not even regional. I mean, I have Delaware Valley Finance Authority listed here. They do municipal solar lending and they do it statewide. And this graph, which is probably very hard to read for you folks, is just it's right from their website projecting where their loan terms are, and those high water marks are at 4.5%. If you're familiar with financial market, 4.5% is really good. So long-term 20-year note at 4.5% to fund a solar array is going to produce revenue. I mean, I'm fairly certain of that, even without seeing your electricity bills. That's a really nice financial curve. So you have options. Power purchase agreement, I'll talk about on a following slide, but it's just another way to finance solar that is not taking money out of the pocket of municipality, in year one or pretty much at any point, no upfront cost. And then critical thing to talk about here is the direct pay option. This is the federal tax credit that temporarily nonprofit organizations and municipal governments have access to, depending on where you're located, minimum of 30% up to 50%, including some things like domestic content. That is, we're on a very strict timeline right now to access that. But again, I'm hoping that through this presentation, you feel like that's accessible to you if you can, move swiftly and make decisions on a reasonable timeline. And really the key is that solar can generate revenue long term. I think everyone understands that, but through these funding mechanisms, we also see a lot of opportunities for municipalities that generate revenue short term. A little bit more about that power purchase agreement. And again, we could spend a lot of time talking about this, but fundamentally what this is that a solar developer, either themselves or with a tax equity partner, is going to be the owner and operator of your solar array. That certainly means that you're not paying any upfront costs and you're never dealing with the operations and maintenance of that. They're leasing your property. That includes rooftop or parking canopies. They're going to maintain the system, make sure it's operational. They're obligated, frankly, both financially and contractually, to make sure that that system is operating at peak efficiency, so that you could purchase the electricity at a discounted rate. If you're buying your own electric or you're buying your own solar, and going to own and operate it yourself for a long period of time, it is going to make you more money, frankly. If you make that upfront investment or you finance it, you're going to get a better share of the revenue. But if you don't have access to those opportunities or don't want to deal with the nuance of that and really just looking at long-term stabilization of cost, this is a really great option. Set it, forget it, and they're going to deal with it over that term. Typically, we're not seeing this on small solar arrays. And small in the sense of commercial array is, I would say, between 250, 350 kilowatt system and below is when we have a little bit more difficulty accessing this kind of financing mechanism. But as Eric might talk about, we've worked with Connect to try to harness scalable financing across multiple municipalities to do this very thing, which is provide power purchase agreements for smaller solar arrays. I have here municipal solar can and definitely should go swiftly if you want to access those tax credits. I'll have a zoomed in version of this chart on the timeline, but ultimately what I really want folks to get across is that this is achievable, but it is tight. So as of the OBBA, we have now a truncated timeline to implement solar and then access that 30% tax credit, that reimbursement. And it's all about this term, beginning of construction. We need to meet beginning of construction on the project at one of two pivotal dates to give yourself the best shot. The first date is the end of this year, which is going to be extremely tight for folks if you're just looking into solar now. But really, the reason that I'm highlighting this date is that if you're in motion and there's an opportunity, this really just allows you to guarantee that tax credit, give you a longer runway to install that solar, but also concern. So we're not thinking about where the panels are manufactured. What we're concerned with is, can we build a system in several years, right? So at the end of the year, first deadline, but really, I think what I want folks to really grapple with is July of next year, 2026. So in July of 2026, what you lose by exceeding that date is extended timeline to install your solar array. If you can meet the beginning of construction, which in the next slide I'll discuss what that is, you are able to, you and your solar developer partner are able to take, up to 4 years to have this project built in the ground, turned on, and then you still have access to that federal tax credit. If you exceed that deadline, the project needs to be put fully into service, operational, by the end of 2027. Next slide, please. And beginning of construction, fortunately, this has been revised by the Treasury as recently as August. Not that onerous. There's a physical work test that we're not really going to talk about here because the truncated timeline makes that a little bit more complicated. Really what we're looking at is 5% safe harbor rule, which is that 5% of the total project cost needs to be paid for by the potential solar owner. That in many instances will be you, the municipality, but as I noted earlier, power purchase agreement, you're not the owner. So that's the solar developer putting that down. So what they need is sort of they need a contract from you, and they probably want to go through the interconnection study with the utility company. But there's some work around there. That is, don't want to get too much into that here. That is more of a timeline challenge than anything right now, as we don't necessarily have a lot of control over what happens at the utility level. So that may or may not need to be moved around in timeline development. But the really important thing to get from this slide and get from this discussion is that this is achievable. Like, July in municipal government probably is not that long of a timeline. I'm sure folks on here are thinking like it's fast, but we can do it. And that's really just about getting an appropriate feasibility model for your solar and selecting a developer that you feel good about contracting with. And with that power purchase agreement arrangement, some of you folks would have a lot more latitude because you're not the one putting down that 5%. It's going to be the solar developer. So if there's sincere commitment from the municipality to do the work, this is really operational, and we are just beginning scalable programs with some municipal governments across the Commonwealth, like starting this month, with a really sincere belief that we're going to be able to do this and do it comfortably. But I know in the corner here before the slides, I'm not a tax advice professional, so obviously want to involve your solicitor, want to involve some experts as well, just to make sure that we're doing what we need to do. And again, this doesn't have to be bad news. I'm not gonna bat you, but just wanted to get another picture of a sheep in here and make people feel positive after that timeline. Bidding construction, I covered this, but I want to reiterate, like, the solar world has dealt with a lot of adversity over the last 15 years, 20 years, however you want to timestamp it, you can go back to Jimmy Carter putting solar on the White House and his immediate successor taking it off. So solar is always riding what we call the solar coaster. There's ups and downs. Developers and finance experts are prepared. They're doing what they need to do to meet these objectives. We've had a lot of conversations with folks in both those spaces. We feel pretty good about the opportunities. So just want to frame that at the end of the day, most of the solar that municipal governments have installed today have not benefited from the direct pay and have not been in an energy market that we're experiencing where costs are increasing rapidly every year. So it's achievable even under dire circumstances. Really key thing that's going to get covered here, and I'll move a little bit more quickly, is that municipal solar really benefits from good partnerships. We want to be a partner that's available to folks that are interested in doing this, but we have a great shared energy manager program at the state level. I've seen the work that they've done with municipalities. It's been really effective. Connect, if you're a municipality, in their network, has been a really wonderful partner. The municipal hub has a lot of resources and is trying to steward folks through understanding, applying for that tax benefit, et cetera. But then also, the trail's been blazed. Like, solar is not new, and municipal solar is not new, and every way that you could slice it, it's been done. So we really want folks to feel comfortable leaning on. I mean, this webinar is a great example of what, SCDN and Sustainable Pittsburgh and folks like Bethany have already figured out on your behalf and have access to those resources. So just want to let folks know that you're not wading into new territory. Like, it's mostly been figured out, and even though your project will be unique and have unique circumstances, it could be figured out, and it can be figured out quickly. A little bit about our process working with organizations. We try to keep it super simple, 4 steps, and functionally, really, the first 3 are what are going to matter for you. Is that we do solar feasibility and savings analysis internally. So we do solar design on the Get Solar team. We put together financial metrics in terms of costs, benefit. We'll look at your electricity bill. We'll look at your information about your roof and try to assess what your best opportunities are. And we can do this scalable. I mean, my preference working with the municipality or school district or any kind of public entity is show me all of your property, show me all your bills, and we'll help you determine where the highest value solar is. So it's not using your time, your man hours, not straining your technical knowledge. Like let us figure that out. We also can assist putting out those competitive bids. If you're doing a public procurement method for a more traditional solar array, like we have experience of that. We have some bid documents reviewed by legal teams that you can integrate your information in, and we can get that out there. We have RFP documents for power purchase agreements, or some more loosely structured acquisition goals, and we'll help you review that, and we'll help you unpack that with the solar developer. And then ideally we're looking at number 4 at the beginning, but sometimes it works out that we have to be creative at the back end to figure out what the financing strategy looks like. We could rip through this, but just we know what we're doing. We have a variety of successful projects, helped assist nearly 10 megawatts of solar in, and hopefully we're looking at least double that by the end of next year, given the timeline of projects. Most of these take a long time, up to 4 years is the longest I worked on. Of course, that's like start to finish. I mean, fully installed. Sometimes things happen on the back end that can slow it down, but we're here to walk that walk with you. And we can go through this super quickly, but it talked about solar design. I mean, we'll look at your property, assess the ins and outs. This is a school district we worked on, had a couple different opportunities to look at solar, maybe include a roof upgrade. We'll take a look at all of that, and if you jump to the next slide, we'll spit something out that looks like this with a little bit more information about, I believe the next slide even shows that, if you want to jump to that. A little bit about like the cash flow, 25-year cash flow, all the ins and outs, IRA benefits, as much as they're available. There's Act 129 rebate that may be available, depending on utility market, depending on the timing. We'll try to prepare this all in a way that's extremely readable for you and for your board, because I know that ultimately decision making is clutch. Like we need to make this simple and accessible to anybody with any kind of background. And then we'll get that bid, right? So we'll go out and help you. We'll help you prepare that bidding packet, so that you can just release it if we're doing that traditional procurement. Quick legal review, get that document out, and then hopefully the minimum standards of what we set in those packets sort of weed out any concern about fly-by-night companies. I mean, we're pretty strict about the kind of solar developers that we work with and we engage with in our program. So we really want to make sure that they have a high level of competency, they have the financial resources to procure the equipment and to leverage that, or if it's a PPA, to ensure that they can actually build the PPA model. So we vet all that stuff, and we have a developer network of over 70 qualified solar developers that touch our program. A lot of them are regional, some of them work on small projects, large projects, but it'll get out into the ether, and a lot of folks will see it if we help you do that release. In terms of RFPs or like in the procurement for a PPA, we're going to really help you unpack with the solar developers what the value proposition is. We'll schedule those interviews, schedule the site visits, make sure that you're getting a really like comprehensive assessment of what the value proposition is for your organization. So if folks are interested in working with us specifically, or just if you have questions, happy to spend time with you, even if you're maybe somewhere else in the process and aren't interested in the Get Solar program. Our website's just www.pasolarcenter.org. That Get Solar dropdown has a bunch of information. You can click through the municipalities thing if you want, or just info@pasolarcenter.org, or reach out to me, leo@pasolarcenter.org, if you have any quick questions. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you very much, Leo. Now, I'm excited to introduce our next speaker. Eric Robb is the Director of Infrastructure and Resilience for Connect, where he leads multi-municipal climate action plan for over 40 Allegheny County governments. A certified climate change professional, he partners with local governments, utilities, and nonprofits to advance sustainability across southwestern Pennsylvania. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Leo. As Leo mentioned, I've worked alongside Pennsylvania Solar Center, so a lot of this presentation I'm going to be reiterating some of Leo's points, but providing some additional context from the local government perspective. And I want to note that I'm not a local government official, I'm not a manager, I'm not an elected, but I work with a lot of them. And so if you could go to the next slide. The organization I work for is called Connect. So if any of you are not aware, in Allegheny County, we've got a lot of municipalities, and so there's a lot of need for increased coordination. So Connect exists as a sort of a think tank membership network between those local governments to try to share public policy solutions and talk about ideas across these boundaries. Specifically, one of my favorite projects that I've worked on has been this idea that there can be improvements made to municipal energy the way that it's always been done. And so solar is really one of those forms in which governments have they've worked on this for a long time, to be clear, but increasingly this has become something that I've been happy to be a part of and happy to help them think through as an option for them. Next slide. And so I just wanted to go over some of the benefits. And Leo touched upon a lot of this. There's a number of different benefits, but really the chief one, and again, this is coming from the perspective of many different municipal governments that I've worked with on the project with Leo, as well as outside of that project, is municipalities can gain certainty and control. One of the worst things that a municipal official can hear is uncertainty. Uncertainty in a budget, uncertainty in funding, uncertainty in whether a project can get done. They're responsible to residents. So if there's a solution out there that can give extra certainty to especially a municipal budget, that's something to take a hard look at. And so the reason why solar is something that fits that bill is that you got to kind of look back at the historical context of power production in Pennsylvania, right? So traditionally and across the United States, it's been coal dominated, natural gas dominated, and renewables have just recently, within the past 30 so years, become more of a thing. And so when you think about these technologies, these are technologies that a local government cannot provide their own power. Imagine if every local government that you saw on that map had to produce their own power to power buildings, to power services like wastewater treatment plants for their community. It would be impossible. The economies of scale there are impossible. And so with coal, with natural gas, with nuclear energy, as Leo mentioned, prices are going up. It's about in PJM, it's about 60% natural gas. It's like 5% coal. 30% nuclear. Renewables are less than 3. And so all of those resources that make up the majority of where municipalities are getting power from are in industries that municipalities don't have direct control over. They don't have direct control like they do with waste, maybe in-house waste services or wastewater treatment plants where they're able to set rates. They just have to buy electricity. And so usually historically that has been a municipality maybe working with an energy broker where they are entering into that 2 to 5 year supplier contract. This is something that is just standard. They don't think about this every year. They try to shop for the best rate, of course. And as those rates have been going up, there's really not much you can do about it beyond shopping. Then that electricity is then delivered by that local distributor. And in our case, it's Duquesne Light Company. Municipalities have more energy consumption than you would think, or more of their budgets attributed to energy consumption than you would think. Communities that have their own wastewater treatment plants, it could be over 60% of their entire energy budget. It could represent up to 10% of a municipal budget. It's high. Buildings and operations is usually where that comes from. And so those things combined and the increasing price of electricity, even conservatively at 3+% per year, it creates that uncertainty for local governments. And so at its very core, solar represents a new option for officials, right? So solar represents a way to sort of democratize energy production. They can produce this energy on their rooftops. And they can sort of remove themselves in certain ways from this standard process in which they have no control. Next slide. And so, what does that look like? So say you get solar on your roof, you do go through all the processes that Leo talked about. This looks like lower monthly bills. So everyone's used to, this is an example of a electricity contract. Everybody, has the privilege of seeing their electricity bills every month. What it will look like is lower monthly bills. You could receive new credits. You can sell SRECs on market. Or you could be shifting some of those payments to a new bill at a lower rate in the case of like a power purchase agreement. And so this is just an example, but this energy bill is pretty standard, a couple $1,000 per month for just one account. This is the municipal building of a municipality. And so when you see a couple $1,000 a month in one account, sometimes buildings have multiple accounts. Municipalities always have more than one account. Municipal buildings, parks, street lights, it adds up. And so consider if you're getting lower bills from solar, that's usually that's lowering these DLC charges, essentially your supply charges, or your delivery charges. Imagine if that bill was 2,000 or half or even $0. And in some cases, when you're overproducing on your buildings, you're able to get a credit to your account. So it could even be negative, and they are actually paying you money. Next slide. And so all of that adds up, like I said, and what it really does is frees up the budget for other beneficial uses. And this is common sense. If you're paying less in energy, you're able to allocate that to more places. One specific thing that I've seen done a lot is through net metering, you're actually allowed to credit to a different account, right? So say you're overproducing on one building within a certain distance, you're actually able to credit the account of a different building. And so say that building might be an emergency department, or you're able to take that credit to a different account that allows you to increase allocations to emergency departments. People have set up new project funds. There's instances in California and I believe in Philly where they actually use that extra savings to provide community benefit like electricity bill discounts to low and middle income residents, job training, financial aid, all kinds of things. Even those street side little free libraries, things like that. Communities can save money and put it towards another beneficial use. Another reason why this is ideal is they have ideal spaces. Now, Leo touched on this a little bit. He showed ground mount, he showed carport, and he showed on rooftop. Munis have all of those. They've got parking lots for municipal buildings, public works. They have, of course, a lot of rooftops that are unused. And I have that bug now from Leo. Every time I see a roof that's not being used, I think about what it could be and what it could be used for the community. It can create public value. I've seen communities consider, what about my salt shed? What about the brownfield, alongside the railroad tracks that we have not been able to find a solid use for in the past 20 years? These are all perfect ideal locations for solar, and especially at places like municipal authorities. So like those big energy users, places where you have a lot of space and not using. And again, you can shift the credit to different accounts as long as you are the owner of that account. And I would be remiss not to mention environmental benefits too. A lot of the focus is on financial, but many governments pursue solar because they want to meet local commitments, whether that's climate action planning commitments, whether that is other sustainability commitments like energy use or net zero. It provides governments a opportunity to be high visibility leaders. This is actual physical infrastructure being put on local government property that can sort of signal to other residents that this works. And maybe this might work on your home too. And so the whole community is more resilient for it. Next slide. I wanted to highlight that no matter what you do, whether you're already in process or whether you're even thinking about this, your municipality would not be the first, and you definitely won't be the last. This technology is just working. Financial viability has really increased in the past decade, and maybe even more specifically in the last couple years since incentives, mainly due to the technology, panel price going down, and there's over 65,000 installations in Pennsylvania, residential, commercial, industrial included, and hundreds of municipalities have done this on public works buildings, borough buildings. Here's a couple here. Before the tax credits, as Leo said, there's municipalities that did this from the perspective of let's try something new. And so it was maybe less about the financial aspect. And now it's shifted really noticeably to we need to catch up. We need to actually make sure that we can capitalize on these benefits and incentives and use these spaces in the most beneficial way possible before the opportunity might go away. So it's proven, it's tested, it's been done before. This isn't something new. I know municipalities like to be cautious, again, responsible to residents, but this is something that has been done many places. As Leo said, any way you slice it, this has been done in Pennsylvania as well. Next slide. Just here's some of the communities that I have personally worked on with Leo. This is just in Allegheny County. So if that gives you any sense of, these aren't ones that have put solar in, except for the borough of Whitehall, just recently this summer put some in. All of these communities are considering it, exploring it with us, going through that Get Solar process. There's big, small, north, south, east, west of Pittsburgh, all kinds of different arrangements on municipal buildings, on emergency facilities, public works buildings, like I said, parking canopies, all kinds of different things. So I would encourage any municipality, if they are thinking about it, start exploring it now. You definitely won't be alone. Next slide. And I wanted to, from my perspective of working with governments, I've heard a lot of what they think about this and what their strengths and what their gaps are. And I would encourage any municipality who is exploring to consider what their strengths and gaps actually are. So first of all this has to be passed by council. So understanding the elected's motivations, if you are a staff person or if you are a community person that wants to see if this works at your municipality, understand whether it's financial, whether it's environmental, or whether it's just stability, right? Having the right people at the right table at the right time has been key to our projects. Having a champion at a municipality, whether that's someone on council or whether that's someone on staff that really sees the value that we've been laying out right here, is going to be critical. Because bringing those other folks into the fold at the right time, when maybe solicitors don't need to be involved in the early stages of the project, but do before signing contracts, that'll be key. Involving your engineering firm, finance department, but again, understanding that there are gaps. Your solicitor might not have knowledge in energy policy. Your engineer might have never done a solar design or a solar installation. They might not have pre-bid documents. These are all gaps that local governments that I've seen have faced. And of course, the funding issue as well, whether you want to buy, directly own this system, or whether you want to be able to, maybe do a third-party lease. Recognizing that this is a new concept, I think, is something that has put governments at ease. Even though there's been many governments that have done this, it is new to some. And so education and support might be needed. And so whether that's staff knowledge, whether that is in the procurement process, whether that is concerns with fire risk. This is something that comes up is they think that there's a potential fire risk, and in fact, research shows that it's much less than even any other electrical system that you might have up there. So there's other misconceptions as to whether folks are sort of not grid tied, meaning when there's a blackout, will my solar keep powering my building? And that's battery storage. And so there is education that's involved, but next slide. The point is that there are many partner organizations that are readily available to fill those gaps that you might have. Leo talked about the Get Solar program. I can't laud that program enough, truly. It has helped all those communities that I pictured there get to the point that they're at. There's so much research out there that can support and answer some of the questions that governments might have. Pre-development funding for places where maybe you need legal services, maybe you need to cover interconnection costs. There are many foundations, nonprofit organizations that are trying to help local governments get over that whatever those barriers might be. It's just a matter of finding them. And so, even private firms, a lot of the governments we were working with, third parties to try to do power purchase agreements. Just the other day, I had a third party company that I've never heard of before approach one of my governments about solar canopies in their municipality, unprompted, because I take that as proof that it works, that they realize that there's money to be made in this arrangement, and the arrangement with the local government can benefit both parties. So reaching out to firms, reaching out to those nonprofits, other governments especially, your neighbor might be considering the same thing. And so there are opportunities, as Leo had alluded to, that if you were to partner with your government, and you might be able to actually access some financing, access some financing mechanisms that otherwise you would be maybe closed to you as a small municipality. And so think about that. There's always someone to fill a gap. I would encourage people to think about that sooner rather than later. Don't try to go it alone if there's so many people out there wanting to help. Next slide. And then just lastly, my biggest advice is going to be fit solar to your municipality, not the other way around. I think that's what Leo, that's a common thread of what Leo is saying, that, the process might be quick, but there's always a way to do it. It requires some thoughtful timing and siting. There's always a good time, but sometimes there's a perfect time for solar. So you might be having a roof replacement, perfect time. Your contract cycle, what we're talking about, your electric supplier, might be ending soon. So that's a perfect time to think about maybe I might get a cheaper rate if I do contract with a third party like PPA provider. Do you have large energy users? Are you trying to increase? Are you having to increase rates because of costs? Are you trying to do considering a tax increase, for example? These are all times to think about solar, obviously, if it stands to save you money. Again, bring in those key players early and often. The partnership and the involvement of everybody that is going to be involved in your borough is critical to making sure that, especially on a tight timeline, that things are done in the proper way and that everyone feels happy about the process. Again, seek partnerships. I have to reiterate, sooner is better. Your best options to maybe lock in those rates are now, especially for longer time periods before we move into a period where there is less uncertainty. But most of all, talk to other municipalities. I am giving you guys experience from my own experience with municipalities. But if you're a municipality, talk to another municipality. I think this is a perfect layup to Bethany as well, because that's why we have her on. Ask them about their successes, ask them about their experiences, ask them how much they save, what their barriers are, because again, if you can identify those and what you might be facing as a municipality as you grapple with these choices, that'll only help. So lots of examples. I think that is it.
Thank you, Eric.
Yep.
Last but not least, we're proud to welcome Bethany. Bethany Ayers Fisher is the sustainability manager for the city of Reading. where she leads initiatives in energy efficiency, environmental planning, and community engagement. She serves as city liaison for multiple sustainability projects and organizations. Co-chairs Earth Day Berks and the Scheikel Action Network Stormwater Work Group, and is active in regional and national sustainability networks. Fisher holds a master's in sustainability community development from Alvernia University and volunteers with several local environmental and civic groups. Welcome, Bethany.
Thank you for inviting me today. It's exciting to be here and talk about kind of our big deal project that we have going on right now. And so I guess we'll jump right in. The city of Reading is getting ready to break ground. We have our interconnection, we've done our planning, we're finishing up our engineering, but we should be breaking ground still later this year. And 1.8 megawatts of solar at 2 of our city-owned facilities. This is part of a larger Guaranteed Energy Savings Act project. So the Guaranteed Energy Savings Act, also known as GESA, is actually a federal law that was enabled in the late 1900s, early 2000s, that allows governments and quasi-government organizations to hire an ESCO, which the Department of Energy has already done the qualification work for that. And that is available. Those contracts are available through the contract sharing organizations. But it allows you to do design build and basically pay off your construction bond with the savings of your energy work. Only energy and water efficiency projects are eligible, but thankfully solar is available for that. So we our funding is a combination of a municipal bond, American Rescue Plan Act dollars, the Department of Energy's energy efficiency community block grant, and then some of our own capital project money. It took me about 2 years of begging my leadership and helping them understand what GESA is and what it isn't, and what working with an ESCO would be like. You do want to make sure that you pick your ESCO well, that you're just going to get along. These are long project times, so you're going to be besties for 3 to 5 years. So choose well. And then, but the cool thing that allowed us to do was to bundle similar projects together. So we actually have one contract for 14 different sites. And it includes a lot of lighting projects, and then HVAC upgrades, electricity upgrades, and then of course the solar project. So we'll go to the next slide. So this is our general project overview. Yes, I got the city of Reading, which is known as a poor city, to commit to an $18 million project. We have to be really mindful about how we invest our dollars and how we spend the money that we are in charge of stewarding. Our population of about 95,000 residents struggles with poverty. We have housing issues, and and for a long time we were in Act 47, which we did exit in 2022. And I know my colleagues here at the city, like, we have no intention of going back. We're not comfortable with that. We we learned to do a lot without much, and unfortunately we did have a lot of deferred maintenance and things like that, especially in our buildings, and kind of bundling these projects together to give ourselves that upgrade that we needed while realizing significant energy savings and cost savings in that process was what really sold us on going through a GESA or doing a GISA within ESCO. So we'll go to the next slide. So this is what our project looks like. The first helioscope, which was one of many. So you are looking at public works. So if you've ever played Monopoly, this is the Reading Railroad. So we have this oddly shaped, triangle-shaped lot. It's about I want to say it's about 8 acres, but I could be wrong. We are surrounded by 3 sides by the railroad. As you were coming up our driveway, we are on a hill. And so on the left-hand side, coming up the driveway, is our staff parking area, which we are going to be adding car canopies. And then as you further come up, we are going to be utilizing our 2 buildings on campus. So our top building, the north-facing one, is our Public Works admin. That's where I'm sitting right now. And then the southern building is our city garage. The teeny tiny building up to the very north corner is our salt shed. We are actually rebuilding our salt shed. It's about 25 years old. It's time for a new one. And we are making sure that what we build is going to be really accessible and like advantageous to doing solar on. So we're looking at this site, we're looking at 1.2 megawatts, which, as you can see, will cover all of our electricity needs here, plus help cover some other buildings. And the reason why we went with the solar or with the car canopies is that snow protection. We're the people who go out and plow the snow. So there's nothing worse when the drivers come back in from plowing from 12 hours and then they got to shovel themselves out. So this will help reduce that. In 2014, we had a catastrophic hailstorm, which resulted in the loss of about 100 City of Reading vehicles. And this was while we were in Act 40, in Act 47. And we do not, if we can reduce any potential storm damage of our vehicles, as you know, public works vehicles are very expensive. They're custom built. We want to do that. And then, of course, the excessive heat that we're experiencing. Nobody wants to get into a car when it's 130 degrees inside the vehicle. And those are things that we were also able to incorporate into our project. So we'll go to the next slide. So this is our final design. I have to say, talking to your end users is critical for not only nuanced needs in the design, but also to help build your cheerleaders for your projects. Our canopies were a standard height canopy, might be 10 feet. We went with a 14-foot minimum clearance. So that way all of our vehicles could fit underneath. We wouldn't have any accidental dings. And like I said, this is going to be breaking ground later this fall. And then we also have plenty of rooftop. But rooftop only was not going to give us what we actually wanted. And then we're going to go to the next slide. So our City Hall parking lot is primarily used for directors, electeds, and the police department. And it's just this blob of a parking lot, kind of mid-block, surrounded by backyards. And we did have a design change to the lot layout that was early on, which actually gave us an opportunity to build more solar. So instead of doing individual canopies, we're basically building one giant carport and putting solar on top of that, while again maintaining those height clearances that our vehicles require. The worst part of the project, I think, is going to be just kicking everybody out of the lot for 4 months. But it's worked out I think this design is going to work out really well. We did have some changes that we needed to make. Unfortunately, our City Hall roof did not have the structural integrity to add I think it was 330 panels onto the roof without doing actually where you pierce the roof, where you like attach it physically to the roof, and we did not want to do that. And so we're actually making this canopy a little bit larger, and then our salt shed array a little bit larger to make up for the panels that we purchased. I think that's about everything we have. One of the main things that we really, when I started looking at this, was we got caught up in the 2022 Talon Energy bankruptcy, and so our energy costs went from about a budgeted 2.3 million to 4 overnight. And this was one of the things that we're doing to reduce those costs and not have that market disruption. So thanks for letting me present today, and John, I'll kick it back over to you.
Thank you, Bethany. And thank you, Leo and Eric. Panelists, if you don't mind turning your cameras back on and join me on screen, and we'll do a brief Q&A portion of today's webinar. Again, to the audience, if you have a question for Sustainable Pittsburgh or any of our speakers today, please put your questions in the Q&A box. So speakers, we'll start off with a question here. So as we all know, Pennsylvania's municipalities vary widely in size, capacity, and resources. What are some of the most effective first steps you've seen local governments take on to start exploring solar, especially those that may not have the dedicated sustainability staff or funding in place?
Yeah, just from the perspective of a technical support organization, we definitely don't mind spending the time and energy trying to figure out the details of a solar project, even if there's not a lot of certainty that there's a way to get it done, right? I think the worst thing you can do, from my perspective, is not reach out, not try. Increasingly, I mean, for our part, the more we do this work, the more we find unique opportunities to complete a project, new financing, just new perspectives on how to make it all pencil. So even if it doesn't look like it has a good path, or you don't maybe think that you have a perfect setup for solar, just reach out, try to figure it out. I mean, obviously, there's not an unlimited amount of technical support out in the world, but we're certainly interested in doing it. And a lot of these, partner organizations, I'm sure Sustainable Pittsburgh can point folks in the right direction. But yeah, just try, even if your capacity is limited, at least try to find somebody who can get you some of the next steps forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even at a bare minimum too, just take a look at some of the bills you have. Oftentimes governments, this is just, again, like a cost that is just understood to be. It's not something that's really critically looked at. Look at your electricity bills, apply some of these figures of what these savings could look like, and then imagine, do that mental exercise. Imagine what you could be using that money for. And it suddenly becomes a lot easier to be using some of your time, or better yet, making partnerships like Leo just said, to analyze these buildings and sites and everything for you to see what you might be able to save.
Yeah. And I would add, if you have an environmental advisory council, that's who pushed, for my job to even exist, but really pushed for us to take a look at these expenditures and figure out thoughtful and meaningful and sustainable ways to manage our operations better. And if you don't have an EAC, if you have planning commission, if there's those advisory boards that support whether you're a city or a borough, and it's a good network to tap into. But yeah, there's lots of help out there if for TNA, for the TA, and even just where to start with your utility will help you.
Yes, absolutely. One more question here. So from your experience, what's one lesson or success story from a Pennsylvania community that's implemented solar that other municipalities can learn from and potentially replicate?
Yeah, I mean, I can offer a couple, I guess, just from our program. We helped, I mean, it's not, it's musical adjacent, but Community College Allegheny County and their North Campus went through our program. Large facility, newer roof, went through program and found a power purchase agreement, and that made sense at the time, and they had a good rate, and now they seem incredibly smart because they found a rate before we started to see like a really significant changes. I mean, this was 2020, 2021, before the energy market really became more unstable. And now their rate, which was good at the time, 20% discount, is probably more like 30, 40% discount on the going rate. And so the timing is always right. Is when I feel like sometimes folks think like maybe in the future it'll change, maybe it'll get better. But resoundingly, my experience has been seeing projects that had they pulled the trigger that didn't, would be in a really good place right now. And I think that'll be true of projects that are on that question right now. Should we pull the trigger? Tomorrow you'll probably be like, well, I wish I would have done it yesterday. And I think that's just going to keep being true. I mean, the energy costs, we keep saying it, we hammer it, but I can't, we could not emphasize this enough. They're not going to get lower, certainly not over a long period of time. It's only going to become more expensive. So I feel like that's one angle I want to take, but we talked a little bit about Whitehall. Eric and I are working on a large scale power purchase agreement to help defray costs for these municipalities. But Whitehall just installed a small system. They had money set aside. It wasn't a huge, like they could do more, but they're like, this is something we can do right now, and we have the money to do it, and the payback makes sense. And so I think those highlight sort of the two, tectonic poles of this, which is small solar array makes sense if you have money set aside or you want to finance something. A large solar array makes sense, but just don't limit yourself to trying to find the perfect opportunity. It will pencil, just look at what you have and make the evaluation based on that, not like what would be, quote, ideal in your mind. Like it'll make sense. And then as time goes on, it'll prove you out to be pretty smart.
So we have a couple questions here from the audience. So this might be like a follow-up question to send via email. Does any organization present here have simple 1 or 2 page case studies as demonstration of what is possible? So perhaps like a written version of what you just mentioned with various other like, case studies and examples that the audience can maybe look at after the webinar.
Your Got Solar page, Leo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have all of our success stories on our website, but we could definitely provide some more in-depth analysis of that. And I don't want to keep hogging all the oxygen, but I don't know, Bethany, if you folks have like case study work on what you've done.
Not quite, because we are in the weeds of construction. But if anybody's in the Reading area on Saturday, I am doing ribbon cuttings on 2 of our field houses Saturday morning, and we're going to be, as we continue to wrap up some of the work, we'll be having more celebrations. So, but if anybody would like a tour of anything as we're wrapping up, I love field trips. I'm always happy to do those.
That speaks to, I think, a written case study is great, and I think helps present to a board, but every solar owner I know is very excited to have people walk through and look at their solar. So if you're really interested, I'm sure all of our organizations, we could pull together a list of folks near you that have installed, and they will be very happy to show you what they did. I mean, solar owners are very proud. So that experience, talking to them about what they're going through or what they've gone through, really helpful.
And then one last question here, and this is a pretty important one given the diversity and the breadth of the state. Are there bipartisan support for solar initiatives from your experience?
I will start locally. Yeah, absolutely. I've been shocked. maybe I had a bit of a jaded perspective on, this topic when I first started working with Leo on the Connect communities. But um, if you boil it down, I mean, sometimes these arguments are just purely financial. And I have seen many a municipal manager's eyes pop at the numbers that they see, that are very conservative estimates as well. These aren't even stretches. These are conservative estimates of what savings could look like. It, again, all of a sudden becomes very easy to see, government supporting this. So I have not, in fact, we haven't had any communities drop out of the program on because of a aversion to the technology or some other political consideration. It was purely structural or something like that. So yeah, there's bipartisan support.
Yeah, and I sometimes speak to this when I talk, but I'm from Cambria County. I come from a mining town of like maybe 100 people. The high school that I went to went through our program and is installing solar. The rival high school to mine is installing solar. It went through our program. At that local level, that community level, money talks, right? And certainly there are folks in there that are interested in the other benefits, the environmental, sustainable concerns, but it makes sense financially. And so you'll not find very many facilities directors that don't recognize that. And at the end of the day, if sort of political aspirations interfere with that basic logic of trying to do the work well, then it's probably not a great fit for your community anyway. But I haven't seen it happen. And, the state level is where things could be really exciting. There, obviously, the federal level is solar is not in a good place, but the industry has sort of moved past the need for that. But where things could really happen is at the state level, we have a state policy that determines asterisk value. I don't want to get in the weeds, but some of the financial benefit of solar is right now being say limited by inaction at the state level, and those folks do have to respond to their communities. Like they are adherent to the voices in their communities. And so what we need is rural communities speaking to their representatives saying like, we need this. We need the financial value this provides. Like this is a material gain that we don't have access to fully because of an action at the state level. And it would be very simple for a good state policy to be passed. Like we do have a portfolio standard that obligates some amount of solar energy, and it's extremely low. It's pathetically low. And that could be fixed, with the stroke of a pen. So I really advocate for folks to engage in that discussion with your representatives, because it would take, maybe 5 individuals to completely change that. And we would be in a much better place at the state level.
Yeah, I agree. For us, it was mainly the financial benefits, but also the environmental benefits help too. But if the math doesn't math, it's not happening. So, it's, do you want to have uncontrollable energy bills, or do you want to own your own system? Young people are very interested in the solar. And then I've had to explain to some of the old guys in their own parlance of, but it's about sticking it to the man. We own our system. We're not subject to other people's decisions. It's ours. So it was relative. That was the easy part to get through on our project.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying speaks to the importance of adjusting language depending on where you're going without sacrificing your values and the true message you're trying to get across.
And I think it's more curiosity and uncertainty. And and even some of our residents we took to go tour other facilities so they could like literally touch it. And that's what it took.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you all for joining us today. We have a few more items we want to go through with the audience before we wrap up, but thank you all for your time and for sharing your knowledge with us. It's an uncertain time, but there's hope as well for a lot of us to take a lot of control, kind of what Bethany was saying, in our own hands on a very local level. There's a lot of things we can do here to really improve our communities and to move forward. So moving to the audience, before we wrap up, we want to hear from you. So if you don't mind taking a moment to complete this brief poll, it'll be very helpful for us as we try to shape next year's programming. Our goal is to continue to provide content that accelerates sustainable solutions, strengthening government operations, fostering community economic opportunity, and building resilient, vibrant communities. This is our last SCDN of the year, so your feedback on this will be incredibly helpful as we do our planning over the next couple of months. And as you complete this poll, I want to go over some of events that we have coming up here with Sustainable Pittsburgh and Sustainable Pennsylvania. On October 28th, we have Bridge It Together business kickoff. On November 6th, we have the Sustainable Pennsylvania workshop, as well as the 2025 Community Conservation Partnerships Program statewide annual grant workshop. And then on November 19th, we have a Sustainable Pittsburgh signature event, the CEO for Sustainability C-Suite Summit. And you can find more on our website, sustainablepittsburgh.org/events. The poll is still going, so please feel free to fill it out before you head out. But if you do choose to leave, thank you so much for your time. You can contact myself or Sawyer. Our emails are located here on the screen, and we'll still give you a couple more moments to fill out the survey. But once again, thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you in 2026.